Belief in oneself and knowing who you are, I mean, that's the foundation of everything great. People should learn from my mistakes as well, not only my successes. That's the beauty of living a life. I'm not a perfect guy. You can take whatever out of it that you choose that applies to you. Some things that I've done will not apply to you. And I made, by the grace of God and whatever angels that I had over my shoulders, I made it through. You may not make it through that same hole. But if you could take what I've done and then perfect on it, then that's great. We all aspire, we all have the same emotions. You know, no matter who you are, where you're from, we all have the same emotions. You know, we all want to be successful. We all have the same fears of failure. We all have this feelings of abandonment. We all want love. We have to stretch the audience. You know, it can't be a young man's game. It has to be a genre of music. You know, and what I do while recording is I find the truth. Whatever truth that I'm going through, it's with a real emotion. If I say, I got to learn to live with regrets. Now, I can relate to that in my life. You can relate to that in your life. Everyone can relate to it. So I find a true emotion and connect to that emotion rather than try to make a certain type of records or make a kiddie record.
You got to understand the reason, right? Why does that guy think like that? Right? How do you arrive at that point? You got to also look at that. You have to look at that. You got to look at the environments and places we live in and how things are set up and how things are structured and how we're always the last on the totem pole, even from our schooling to our roads, you know, everything that all the obstacles that's placed in front of us. If this is what I have to live for, then I'm going to take the chance to get more. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens to me.
My first album, but I never really took it serious. It was more of a hobby, and it was such a gift to me. Like, it was a gift. Like, it wasn't really hard for me to create rap. It wasn't hard for me to write rhymes and things like that. This is when I used to write. Like, in my earlier days, I used to write every day, every single day, in the kitchen, banging on the table. My mom's like, please, get us a break back here. I had this green notebook. I used to just write every single day. I wasn't writing with the intentions of having a record deal or anything like that. It was just something that I like to do. It was more of a hobby. I wasn't really just trying to get a record deal. So I would run the streets after that, then I just stopped writing. So then I would still get all these ideas. I have all these ideas, and I still make songs, but now I'm making these songs in my head. So it still wasn't a serious thing to me. To my man Jazz, who was also from Marcy, he got a record deal with EMI, and they gave him some paper. It was like $300,000. Like, back then, this is like 88 or something. I'm like, for real? So it took a while, but when I really started getting serious, my first album came out in '96. And it was like, and I had to put the album out myself. Nobody would sign me. Though I was terrible. Every single record, I went to every single record label. They was like, this guy's terrible. He's nothing. I mean, like, it went from singles. Like, I would press up singles, put in the car. I had to go to the record company. Go to the record store myself. And, yeah, take this. Come back, get $100, $200. Give them some more records. I mean, it really started like that. But it made me appreciate it so much more. No one gave me anything. They didn't give me a record deal. They didn't give me anything. Like, I really just took my time and grew it, step by step by step by step. And that goes from not listening to other people again. Because I could have easily been like, wow, maybe I'm writing, maybe what I'm talking about ain't right. You know what I'm saying? They say no one wants to sign me. Maybe what I'm saying ain't right. I could have easily took that. That was easy. That would have stopped the suffering. But I didn't. I wanted everything to be in a real simple and honest place. You know, like, even the videos, you know, I don't want videos, like music videos, like each one is like a doc, or this is a short, or this is even the cartoon that we made for OJ. Like, I wanted it to be just an honest portrayal of everything that I was saying. Like, the story of OJ is about us moving forward. And for us to move forward, we had to take a look back. And we took a look back and say, okay, this is where we came from. And, like, this is real images. These were shot by Warner Brothers and all these, not to single them out. Right. These were shot by major studios. Like, these cartoons were on TV. This imagery of how we were presented was this. And I wanted to draw a thread between that's really happening now. It's still happening. It's just not as overt. When you look at TV, you don't see a fair, equal representation of people of color. You know, when there's a show on TV, it's like there's black shows on TV, or like, that's a big deal. That should be an everyday occurrence, because we are all like dynamic humans and creatures, and we haven't evolved past race still. So it's like, still, nigga, like, that's, you know, those points are like real important to me. You know, I think that of course the headlines will be about being Kanye and things like that, but like, this album has a lot of topics. You know, that's why it had to be so short. It's so condensed. It's so dense with subject matters and all these other things that if it was longer, you wouldn't be able to take it. It would like wear you out.
Never forget those true things that you stick to, the basic things that make you successful. And for me, it's that truth, finding that truth, the truth of the moment of where I am at the time. You know, not trying to cater to a certain demographic. I was around music my whole life. My mom and pop had like a huge record collection, so I started out listening to music early on, and I would just write music. You know, I just had a love from there. I didn't get to it, you know, I got caught into my neighborhood and my surroundings, but I've always taken it with me. I've always went back to it, and it just got to a point where it was like, make this decision. This is something you really love and you love to do. It's time to really focus on it and get serious about it and give it your all. And once I did that, it was no looking back from there. My advice is just do things that are true to you. Most things that I'm involved with are extension of being creative. You know, Rockaway is a clothing company. It's part of who you are, and hip-hop is your attitude and what you're trying to express, how you dress. I love sports growing up. I grew up in a household where sports was on 24/7. So these are all things that are comfortable for me. You know, these are things that I like. So I would just say get involved in things that you love, and also have a standard for yourself and have some sort of integrity, and try to, you know, find some sort of truth in what you're doing. All the things that you apply in business, you know, they say that he has great instincts. Well, on the streets, having great instincts can be the difference between life and death, not just losing a deal or incarceration, you know, which is less than death. And being a person of high integrity, you know, people want to deal with you in business, in trust, and honorable, a man of your word. All these things come to play in business world. I'm not condoning anything, any street activity. It's just the way it is. It's not about who got more money and who got more houses. You know, you've earned it, buy what you want. But don't forget what's important. Without people, and just being rich would be very boring. No one to share with, no one to have. You know what I mean? Like, just be a rich person, one person on the planet. Just like, well, then what do you do? Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. That's life. Everything is life. It happens for you. Everything is for your greatest good. You can't control the future. I mean, you can control it up to some point. You can't control what others do. You can't control anything. Someone can run a red light, and that's the end of everything. You know, you only can control what you can control. Seeing things from other people's perspective and what other people are going through, you know, it helps me a lot.
Was that somebody else that helped you get to that? Is that therapy? Is that group? Is that
part of therapy, but part of being who I am, you know, but definitely a lot of therapy. I've been taught everything but emotional intelligence. You don't, that's not what you're taught as a young man growing up in projects. You're taught to survive. I come from the school of making albums. I know right now, you know, everything being digital and everything being so fast and everything that, you know, separate, and people, you know. I try to make albums because for me, it's a capsule of time. You know, it's not just music for me. You know, for me, it's where I was at this moment, or what I'm trying to capture. And what I'm trying to capture, the blueprint is, you know, what I call a new classic, because it's influenced by the Marvin Gaye's and the generation before us, but it's not a recreation of what they've done. My interpretation of it, and it's me making my mark. It's saying, here, this is what I want to be remembered as right here. I think every move made, like we're going to compare it to chess, I think every move made is to be learned from, whether it was a good or a bad move. And I think it all sets you on a path. So in order for me to take back any of those moves, I would have to be unhappy with where I am now. And where I am now is, I couldn't even imagine in my wildest dreams. that I would be here. So for me to take any of those moves back would be affecting the natural course of where I am now. So I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I mean, of course, there are things in life that you say I could have done differently, but knowing that and being aware of that, for me, it's helped me. You know, every chess move that I made, I was like, he's gonna do that. It's like it was followed up because I learned from that one. Okay, now I have to change my strategy because, you know, I moved that there, he's gonna move there. Now I have to move this over here. So at the end of the game, I believe I trapped the queen in the corner, to use a great analogy, and I have the king in my side. So I'm pretty happy with where I am. That meant most to me, and always coming up, I always believed in the way you live your life, you affect the outcome of your life, you know, calm and everything. So I just want to be remembered as a very honest and straight up guy. You know, I'm pretty much a mirror. If someone's cool with me, like energies attract, right? You give off energy, you get that energy back. So just a person that was of the utmost integrity, you know, honest, very hardworking, and someone who really cared about the culture. Because at the end of the day, that's what I'm pushing everyone for. I always had that in the back of my mind, and then I got to a point where I was like, man, I don't want to ever just do it to do it. And then it was this opportunity. So those two things combining led to the retirement. And then, of course, the love for it. Like with anything else, the love for making music, you know, I started pulling me back to the studio, and it was like, yeah, for me, I was happy about it. Because I was like, yeah, that's the feeling I want. Go in with making an album. I want to have something to say, feel like I need to do it, as opposed to it's November and, you know, put an album out. That admiration when people look at me and say, first black president, right? Because for me, like I said, when I walk in the room, I represent the culture. I love the culture, and I love to honor it in that way. So when people look at me like that, it just gives me more motivation to keep, you know, to continue to open doors for that next generation of artists. Like I said, this is the thing that saved my life, hip hop. You know, I don't know where I would be without it. There were no backup plans. So for me, it's very important. And when people recognize that, you know, it just lets me know that I'm doing the right thing.